too. So in the 1870s, we started to look at what we're doing in South Africa, and particularly around the Zulu land, Natal, Transvaal borders. It's been a bit of a melting pot. They sometimes refer to Natal as the Flanders of South Africa, in so much that a lot of the fighting, a lot of the activities that go on there affect the political development, and it's an area that we've fought over probably for around about 60 to 70 years at various points in its history. So this is very much a fulcrum, a centre of what's going on. And in the 1870s, we started to see the British expanding. The Great Boer Trek, the Boer Trekkers have already moved on. They've established the Orange Free State and the Transvaal to the north outside British rule. And we're starting to capture and take on the various economies and tribal elements around the southern African borders. We've done a series of Cape and Capital Wars, the last one of which is in 1878, the 8th Cape War, which sees us colonise most of the tribal elements in South Africa. We then start to look north, further north, towards the Zululand border, and actually looking at finishing the Zulu potential threat to stuff there. Now the Zulus, we had some contact with them over the last 30 or 40 years, so we were aware of what they were about, we were aware of the shattered military systems that's been imposed on the Zulu nation, and so we actually started to look at moving forward and taking on the Zulu. Chelmsford is given the task of invading Zululand under a number of somewhat strange pretences. Bartle Frere decides he's not going to talk to the local government about the invasion, and he actually is looking to come up with excuses why they attack and actually take Zululand. The intention of actually finishing the war quickly and then turning London while we conquer the land already. He's lucky in that he's got a number of regular infantry regiments available for that invasion, and he decides he's going to have 3 separate pincer movements. A main attack on the central column, which he commands, although Glynn is technically in charge of it. Chelmsford attaches himself to it, and its activities are predominantly Chelmsford's concerns. And then a northern and southern column advancing for the pincer movement toward eluding the Zulu capital. King Ketchawayo in December 1878 was given a number of demands, none of which are particularly acceptable to him, and some which he cannot actually meet. As a result, in January 1879, we invade Zululand. Chelmsford's column is made up of 2 battalions of Imperial Infantry, along with other Natal native contingents and other irregular forces. And unusually for the British infantry at that time, both battalions are made up of the 24th Foot. Normally you'd have one on home service, one on active service. The 24th, for various reasons, are in Africa from 1874 and then joined by the 2nd Battalion in 1878. So it's unusual you've got both battalions there at the same time. So our infantry section is going through some review exercises now, are actually representing members of the 24th Foot. And we talk a bit about their kit and equipment, we'll have some understanding of what we're actually using there. Where in the traditional red frock of the British infantrymen, we wear red. Why do we wear red? It's nothing to do with covered in blood or anything like that. It's all to do with the fact it's a legacy from when Fairfax sets up the new model army of Parliament. He decides at that point he's actually going to make sure those soldiers all look the same. Not have white coat regiments, blue coat regiments, green coat regiments, British people. Everyone in the Parliamentary army all wear red. As a result of that, it's the field colour of the British soldier remains such, so we wear the uniform right the way through to 1884, a place called Guinness in Sudan, and remains on home service uniform right up to the end of 1914. So it's our field colour. Soldiers are practicing exercises here, and they're wearing the 1871 police equipment in basically what is a belt order. If you're familiar with the paintings of the last stand of the 24th by Fripp, or Lady Butler's paintings of Hawk's Drift, you'll see them in this particular order, just with a belt order, and haversack. We're carrying 20 3 rounds of ammunition each of the 2 light pouches on their waist belt, and over 10 rounds of loose ready to use in the expense or ball bag on their right hip, and in their haversack another 20 rounds of reserve ammunition, so 70 rounds in total. To complement that, on one side of the body they carry their haversack. In there, as well as the reserve ammunition, they also carry a day's marching rations, things like that. And behind that is their bayonet, and we'll talk about bayonets in a second. On the other side of that is Campbell's water bottle. The Italian or Oliver water bottle, a small cubic keg lined with beeswax. It holds about a pint and a quarter of water. If you're lucky, the beeswax stays solid and it stays complete. If it gets very hot, beeswax tends to melt at the seams, and what pressure water you've got drops down back in the bag. If you put in the context of dehydration that the soldiers are suffering, if you remember the World Cup in South Africa, the England football team would probably take 10 to 12 amounts of this water they're carrying per day to rehydrate after 90 minutes of playing football. If you actually put that in the context, these guys are struggling to keep themselves hydrated. And that's why, with the exception of this environment, the vast majority of battle casualties in the Zulu War are from typhoid, dysentery, other diseases, because they're desperate to get anything to wear water. The only difference we wear on our uniforms today in our foreign service is we actually replace the headdress that we wear on home service. So this uniform, although in a cleaner condition, would have been what we've received on home service. And we replaced the shako, which is a French-style headdress, with the white foreign service helmet. Made of cork, it does give a degree of cooling, there's a bit of ventilation to it. It has a rear peak to hopefully keep some of the sun off of you, but even at the best of that, it still gives problems. And the British infantryman is known by the South Africans as Reenactment, because we burn between the top of the tunic and the bottom of the shadow of the helmet itself. We've gone through some exercises with the secondary weapon, and there's 2 reasons we do exercises like this. First of all, forget us as 21st century people. You could join the Victorian Army at 5'3" with a 34-inch chest. Physically a lot smaller, a lot less fitter than we are. And drill like this puts the equipment on you, it's a rifle, 9.5 pound rifle, 2.5 pound bayonet on the end of it, and it builds up muscle tone. You build up in the right places as you do stuff. So you start practicing on a regular basis with the kit on, with the rifle. It means you're actually doing things. There's a secondary part as well as that. It gets you to start responding to instruction as automatons. And what that means is that you know that if you're given a command, you will carry it out. But more importantly, the man to the left or right or rear of you will also carry it out. And that esprit de corps, that knowledge that you're going to do the same thing, means that on the battlefield, you will maintain that discipline, that esprit de corps. And that's what holds you together. It's the cementing building block, and it means that you will actually be knowing that you can actually beat the enemy because you're confident that you know everyone to do as they're told. And the bayonet itself, we carry a lunger bayonet, 76 bayonet. No defection by the other ranks as the lunger, because that's what we do with it. You see that they carry out some exercises with the bayonet. It's not a cutting weapon, like a sword, it doesn't slap, it's a stabbing weapon. The idea being that you actually put some 6 foot between you and the person you're going into hand-to-hand combat with. Although the movements seem arcane, they're specifically designed for certain types of points and cuts. So we have exercises to make sure that you can actually stop somebody on a horse cutting at you, taking somebody in a trench at you, stopping any sort of counter blows, and actually allowing you to deliver your own counter blow. Because again, think of the people we're fighting against. In the 1870s, the vast majority of our people are native forces, with short stabbing speeds, clubs, weapons like that. They can't get under your reach. If you can throw that point forward, 6 foot, they're not going to do damage to you. And that's quite an important thing, because that means you are going to keep the morale of the high ground and combat. Our generals are very familiar with the fact we used cold steel. In the 1840s, in the Sikh Wars, one of our generals was told, we're running out of ammunition. His only response is, thank God I can now be happening with the bayonets, because he knows his general close with cold steel. And this environment, where we suffered the largest defeats against native forces during the 19th century, we find ourselves in a position where the Zulus get the accolade of killing the Zulu, the same as killing killing the redcoat, the same as killing the lion. So it's a very impressive hand-to-hand weapon. And again, a little bit about the Victorian Army. We think of it as a small army compared to the continental armies of Europe, the Russian, the French armies, but we're a very, very professional army. And the reason we're professional is because we actually are on active service virtually the whole of Victoria's reign. There's only 1 year that we don't fight against somewhere across the globe. So we fight virtually every known continent against all foes, European armies, European armies, of course, native forces of all manner of types. Professional developing our tactics and our equipment all the time. And we are the world's superpower. So although the equipment is martini, but we've also some small freebies with us, manned by a collection of what doesn't look like Royal Artillerymen, because they're not. We're matching in the two conflicts in South Africa at the time. In 1879, the British take on the Zulus. We hope the Boers can join us on our side. Big use of the Furious family and supporters from the Boer Volunteer Commando, and unfortunately, that's all we get. The rest of the Boers is like having to sit back over the Transvaal and the Odyssey state, watching what's going on, hoping to exploit any weakness that comes in the end of it, and they look at how the British have actually performed in Zululand. And in 1880, although we annexed the Odyssey state, the Transvaal was quite our colonies, they got bankrupt, the Boers managed to bankrupt the whole of their economy. By 1881, they decided they wanted independence again. In 1881, they decided they were going to declare independence and try and take the colony back. We have a series of small engagements against them, and in Victoria, the capital of the Transvaal, we've got quite a well-established garrison with a lot of field artillery pieces. Earlier, we're a professional army, we're an experienced army, we're constantly rewriting our manuals, our training, the way we do stuff. And one of the things that Chelmsford is looking for when it goes into Zulu War better than the previous, and this one's specifically designed for experience and conflict. What Chelsea should know is that the martini-henry infantry rifle used to send his troops to Zulu War is the best weapon of its day. It was used in 1874 as the first genuine purpose breechloader for the British Army. We'll talk a bit more about its effectiveness as we go through this display. A little bit of warning, if you don't like loud bangs, you probably shouldn't be coming to Odyssey anyway. If you are worried about them, either just open your mouth slightly and minimize the pressure, put your fingers in your ears. We've got a fairly windy day, so we'll disperse most of the smoke and noise quite quickly. We're on a very sunny sort of windy day. There's a bit more damage, but it should be okay with you. Just be aware there will be some loud noises from now on in. We've thrown out a couple of infantrymen and skirmishers. Their role is to actually just act as sentries, looking out for any enemy. One of these Chelmsford had a problem with is he didn't have a lot of cavalry, so he had to rely on his infantry pickets to actually go out and make sure that the Zulus weren't attacking him. He had no regular cavalry, had a squadron of Imperial Mounted Infantry from various regiments, soldiers who could ride, that he actually used, and the rest of them were Natal Native Horse, Carbineers, other volunteer groups. Now we've been spotted, our skirmishers are retiring back. Our field piece is giving us a little bit of cover fire to actually make sure that our lines can reform and deploy from there. And we're trained very much at this period to think about firing as volleys. There's been an independent fire done. The idea being that we don't need to necessarily be good shots because we're not actually facing individual man targets. In the 1870s, the vast majority of people we're looking at had Darren tribes all into Sudan. The Zulu warriors coming in 20,000 to 30,000 strong. I don't have to be a good shot if there's 30,000 people coming at me, because I don't care if I hit somebody on that left side of the arena or the right side. Once I hit one of them, I'm doing damage. And the important thing in the way that we're trained to think about stuff
aiming straight
by firing volleys, we are putting enough weight on the general pressure in the area. The martini-henry is a .45 caliber lead slug. The moment you fire it, you get away in position. It's a smokeless a black powder weapon, so you actually fire smoke and then everybody knows exactly where you are. .45 caliber lead slug, about the size of the top of your thumb. Goes in that size, comes out the small of your back, the size of a tennis ball. Lead being a soft metal, blossoms on impact, and literally leaves a bloody great hole in the person it hits. It's designed specifically to do damage at long distance. It's optimistically sighted at over 1,800 yards. At 1,000 yards, you start to hit the targets. 400 yards, a reasonable shot is a man-sized target. There's no problem with that. And at 100 yards, if it stops a running man in his tracks with a standing down flat on his back, the trauma wounds caused from it will blossom an impact. It will take an arm, a leg, or a head off, but at 100 yards, if it doesn't hit anything that's going to stop it, it will go through you and hit the person behind you. It's designed specifically to make massive trauma wounds. But if you think you're coming on and you start losing people at 1,000 yards, particularly if you're a native force not familiar with firearms, you're going to struggle to keep coming. And that's the idea behind a tactical evolution. Hit them hard, keep them distance away so they can't keep their numbers, get to you. Even in San Juan, when we said what I say, a large defeat in native forces, the Imperial infantry companies in the centre are holding the Zulu centre back, the chest of the centre, Zulus for nearly 40 minutes. Historian Essex, the two officers who survived the firing line, actually report that the 24s were laughing and joking. They're giving the Zulus a bloody good hiding as far as they're concerned. And the Zulus go to ground, they're not going to come on. It's only when one of their units said, catch away, the great king did not order us to lie down here, let's go, that they move forward, the Uwe regiment come up, and the other young regiments that are with them who haven't faced fire like they faced at the Zambala before, throw themselves into that and at that point you start to see them breaking into position. Although it's a very effective weapon, it's a good weapon system, it also has its own drawbacks. Because it's a large caliber weapon, and it's not held properly, it will give you a nosebleed and can eventually, if you don't hold it properly, break your collarbone. Once you start to fire any sort of continuous fire, it starts to get very hot on the barrel and can foul quite permanently. That said, although we carry 70 rounds of ammunition on our persons to go into battle, with the exception of this Zambala and Hawk's Drift, the maximum amount of bullets that anyone uses in the whole of the Zulu Wars, Transvaal War, and the Egyptian campaign to get General Boer out of Khartoum is 30 rounds. So normally the ammunition we carried would have been more than enough to see us through all of that sort of action. Certainly, like I say, Zambala and Hawk's Drift, where they're fighting on and off for 12 hours, people started running out of ammunition. We're towards the end of our seeing off whoever's in the fire in the arena, and we'll be firing hopefully a combined volley and artillery fire to finish us off ahead. Developed slightly differently, and again it's good to have both the 79 and 81 period represented here, because after the Boer War of 1881, where we suffered a number of rather humiliating defeats, England's death, Oxford, and eventually at Majuba Hill, we're in a position where we actually start to look at musketry. And the lessons of the First World War, the Transvaal Rebellion, see us in a position where I think we found another round of volley, is that right? We're just burning off our powders. We got a bit wet on Saturday, so we might as well use our afternoon. But some, just keep running after the moment, Sergeant, we'll just clear the gun. One of the joys of being here Saturday was our family was a little bit horribly, so put it up today. Seeing off a bit of artillery fire, our officer Sticks is very keen to actually see the enemy off at the point of the bayonet. There's looking there somewhere. As I say, the evolution of tactics during the 1870s and 80s was quite a major change. In the bayonet exercise, we found 80 rounds of practice rounds a year. Company will address. 70 of which were volley fire and 10 independent fire. After the Boer War of 1881, it goes the other way round. Cheers for Her Majesty, Queen Victoria! Hip hip! European. Hip hip! Hip hip! So we're giving 3 cheers for Her Majesty, Queen Victoria. Address! We'll tell you a little bit about ourselves. We have a number of groups here working under the banner of the Victorian Association. The 24th Squad represented by members of the Diehards Zulu, Victorian Military Society and the 2nd Queens, and joined by colleagues from the Mid-Victorian, normally Victorian Rifle Volunteers, but today are very kindly acting as our garrison artillery crew in the 2nd 60th. So we're all members of the Victorian Association. We're quite lucky that a number of us here are veterans of various South African visits. We've reenacted at both the Sangwana and North Strip for years. And if you want to know anything about the Victorian Army, feel free to come and find us on our Twitter. So we're finishing our day's day today. Victorian Association, thank you for your time and attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Tim Rose. Always an excellent commentator. Thank you very much.